Hey 7th graders, I wanted to do a quick tutorial with you over how to make a graph in numbers. If you don't get the data table just perfect, the graph won't work. So what I thought I would do, I came up with like a fake experiment, and it's the one that I've talked about a million times in my class, which is whether or not Miracle-Gro works when you put it on a plant, okay? So we have our Miracle-Gro here, and we'll add it to some water, and we'll pour it on this plant, but we will not put it on this plant, okay? So now we have, this is our experimental group. And this is our control group, because this is the one that gets no special treatment, right? Because it's not getting the Miracle-Gro. And what we're going to do is we're going to have to take data, okay? So we're going to measure how does Miracle-Gro affect the height of the growth of plants, all right? So we'll have to get an initial height, okay? So that they're all the same, they have to start the same height, or at least get an initial height. And then we're going to do 3 measurements, okay? So because it's always important to do 3 trials in case some of your data seems weird, all right? So let's say you get this number and it's way higher or way lower than what you expected. If you do 3 trials, then you can tell whether that data is in line with the other 2 data points that you have, or whether it's like, oh my gosh, I need to redo that trial. So anyway, we're going to take initial reading on the height of the plant. So let's say it starts at 10 centimeters. And both of them coincidentally are exact same height. And then a week later, so these are our trials, 1, 2, 3. And a week later, the Miracle-Gro plant is, let's say 13 centimeters, and the non-Miracle-Gro plant is 11. And then the Miracle-Gro plant a week after that is 17 centimeters, and the non-Miracle-Gro plant is 13 centimeters. And then the third trial, the Miracle-Gro plant gets up to 22 centimeters, and the non-Miracle-Gro plant gets up to 15. So we have our data here, right? We've taken the initial height, and then we've looked at the different weeks, 3 weeks, 3 trials, and we've taken data for each. So it's almost like, this is almost like a data table here. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer this over into numbers. So let me see if I can do this.
Hi.
So, wow, that's amazing. I actually did it. So here's this, okay? And you're going to open numbers, and you'll just open a blank, looks like a spreadsheet, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to set up our data table. So where can we write down this information so that we can transfer it into a graph? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write Miracle-Gro or Oracle-Gro, Miracle-Gro, and then no Miracle-Gro. And then this, it would be trial 1, trial 2, whoop, oh, there, and trial 3. Okay, now, what we also know is these trials are in centimeters, okay, and you can see here, the trials are in centimeters. So we need to write trial 1, jeepers, my finger's too big for this, I guess. It erased, sorry. I've done this video so many times, I'm not gonna get rid of it for that. Trial 1 in centimeters, okay? And then, how much you wanna bet this goes away? No, how do you like that? Now, trial 2, trial 3. In centimeters. Well, now I look at that and I'm like, well, what is trial 3 in centimeters? What does that mean? Okay, well, what are we measuring? We're measuring the height we're measuring the height that it grows in centimeters. So what would so here I highlighted this because we need to put a title on our data table, okay? So somebody can look at this data table and make sense of it, because look, this says trial 1 in centimeters. What does that even mean? So we could say trial 1 height in centimeters, or we would put it in the graph, all right? In the title. So it's important that the title has the independent and the dependent variable in it, okay? That's the best way to guarantee that you are going to get full credit for your graph, okay? So independent and dependent variable. So our independent variable is the Miracle-Gro. It's what we are adding to this experiment to see if there's a change. So the Miracle-Gro is the independent variable. The dependent variable is the height. That's what's changing, right? That's what we're taking data on. So the dependent variable is the height. So what sentence or what title can we come up with here where we can incorporate the independent and the dependent variable? So I'm going to write independent and dependent variable in title. And I'm going to put that in parentheses as a reminder to you. That's how you figure out what your title is going to be. So let's take a look at it. So independent variable. So let's do, how does Miracle-Gro affect plant height? All right, so here I have my independent variable, which is the Miracle-Gro, and the dependent variable, which is the plant height. All right, so trial 1, which is not the initial height, but the that first week, which is right there, that's 13 centimeters. So we could write 13, or we could write the difference, which is 3. But let's go with, because if we're looking at growth, it's really just 3 centimeters, but let's go with 13, okay, because it's going to be the same thing. So let's put 13 in here. Notice I'm not putting CM. If I put the CM in there, your graph wouldn't show up, all right? You would do all the right things, and then you would hit make a graph, and it would, boop, there's nothing there. We'll show you at some point. So our no Miracle-Gro at the first trial is 11. So again, I'm just using the information right here. Okay, trial 2 is 17. Again, notice I'm not putting CM. And trial 2 for the non-Miracle-Gro is 13. And then trial 3 is 22. And the non-Miracle-Gro is 15. All right. So, excuse me, please. So now I have my title, all right? I have my trials, 1, 2, 3. Again, you could say trial 1 height in centimeters, but you have the height up here, but that's up to you. Then Miracle-Gro, no Miracle-Gro. So what we do is we highlight that, and I'll get rid of this now. Hang on. Okay. We highlight this cell that has nothing in it in the top left corner, okay? And you can see it has this little blue dot. What you're going to do is drag the dot so it includes just the data that you want to include. Now, let's say you could also start it down here and drag it up that way. That doesn't matter, okay? But you have to highlight all of this data. Okay. So now we have our data highlighted. Ignore all those choices. And look way down in the lower right corner. You'll see that word cell, all right? And it's in a green oval. So all the way down, lower right corner, cell. You're going to hit that. And then you're going to choose Create New Chart. And that's when you're going to choose which chart you're going to make. Now, we talked about in class today where we make, when we're comparing things, we use a bar graph. So that's what we're going to use. And we're going to use this vertical bar graph. So we want the up and down bar graph. So I'm going to choose it, and boom, there it goes. It's right there. So also notice that the Miracle-Gro data is in blue now. Look at the data table. And the no Miracle-Gro data is in green. and it's the same as the colors that were chosen for the bar graph. So now we have this amazing graph. We can make it bigger, make it smaller, but let's make it nice and big. So remember today in class that you were told that every single time you have a graph to make, you are going to be graded on tails, all right? T-A-I-L-S. And let's see if I can, split. I was going to split screen with tails, but the T stands for title. All right, well, I have a title for my data table. I don't have one for my bar graph. How do I do that? So I press the plus button, all right? So I'll do that again. Press the plus button, and I select the circle and the square. And when I do that, I have to make sure, see it says basic, geometry, objects. Go all the way over to basic, choose text, and it'll put a text box here. I move the text box, double tap, and I write the exact same title as I did for my data table as I do for my graph. So, how does, and I'm going to capitalize Miracle-Gro because it's actually like a brand name of something. How does Miracle-Gro affect is a verb, remember, with an A, affect is a verb, a plant height. All right, that's the T in tails. How does Miracle-Gro affect plant height? The A stands for axis. We need to make sure our axes are labeled. So we have our y-axis here on the left where it says 22, 16.5, 11, 5.5, and 0. And our y-axis where it says trial 1 in centimeters, trial 2, etc. So let's start with the y. Is that labeled? Well, no. It says 0, 5.5. It doesn't tell us anything. So again, we're going to press the plus sign. We're going to choose text, and there we've got our text box. And I'm going to say, my Apple Pencil is dying. Okay, height in centimeters. Okay, now what you're going to want to do actually, and it's kind of tricky, but if you use both fingers, where'd it go? See, this is what I was telling my classes, is this how you do it, is by messing up. All right, I'm gonna have to do that again. I don't know where it went. I wonder if I go back. Oh, there it is. I hit the back button. There it is. Okay, so this is the label for the y-axis. Now I could kind of leave it chilling right there, but if I want to turn it, I have to turn it with my fingers. Okay. Wow. Make it a little bigger because my fingers apparently are too big. But if you okay, if you put 2 fingers on it, those of you with smaller fingers, I guess, maybe you can turn it. I can't seem to turn it today. But if you put the fingers on it and turn it, it usually works, but I can't do it. So just, or we could just leave it, chilling, like right over here, like that. Okay. Good. All right. Now, the x-axis, it's actually already labeled. Trial 1, Trial 2, Trial 3. Now, we have to make sure, though, you'll notice up here, and I wish my Apple Pencil worked on numbers, but you'll notice up here where it says Miracle-Gro is dark blue and no Miracle-Gro is green. That's our key or our legend, all right? So that's okay that it doesn't say it on the x-axis because it says it up here on the key. If you didn't have a key, you would absolutely have to label these bars on the X, okay? So we have T, then we have A, which is label the axes. That's done. Then I. I is especially important if you're making your own graph, but I stands for interval. So you can see here, look on the Y, where it says 0, 5.5, 11, 16.5. It has to go up by equal increments. So if you're making your own graph and you start going up by 5, so you go 5, 10, 15, and then you go 25, 85, 104. That is not using the same increments. You have to go up. If you start with 5, you have to continue by 5s. If you start with 10, you have to continue by 10s. But because numbers makes it for you, it does the increments for you, and you don't have to worry about making a mistake there. So we have T, A, I. L stands for legend. or key, which you already have because we talked about how where it says Miracle-Gro, no Miracle-Gro. And then S stands for scale. So scale is taken care of when you make a graph within numbers, but if you were given a big piece of graph paper and you were told to make a graph on that paper, you should use at least 75% or 3/4 of that paper to make your graph. So you don't want to shove all of your data way into the lower left corner and not spread it out. So you can see how these bars are evenly spread out. They're not all jammed together in the left. That is scale. So again, it's TAILS, and I can write it out here. So T is title, A is axis, make sure they're labeled, I is interval, L is legend or key, and S is scale. So that's what you're going to be graded on every single time you submit a graph. And this is how you make it in numbers. So T, title, yes, we've got it. A, axis, they're labeled. I, interval, numbers takes care of it. L is legend, numbers took care of that too. And S is scale, numbers takes care of that too. So I do want to show you one thing quickly. All right. So let's cut that out. Okay. So let's say I put 13 space, and let's do ECM. That doesn't make sense. CM. Okay. So I have CM in there, so I'm going to do the same thing. All right. But I have those CM, and let's see what happens. So cell, create a new chart, bar graph. Well, oh, this data didn't show up. That's what it is. See, that bar for trial 1 didn't show up. If you had every time you have letters in anything, that particular data set will not show up. So I hope this was helpful. Again, make sure we have the tutoring hub. We have eTime. Make sure that you ask questions and go get extra help if you're feeling like you're struggling at all, because we're going to be graphing on virtually every single lab that we do this year. And if you don't know how to do it, you're going to keep making mistakes that aren't really necessary. Okay. And we want to help you through that. So you just make sure you let us know.